Part 70. Fantasy, Me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 692. Do you want to be my enemy? A phantom walked over on the sky. His whole body was intertwined with rules. As soon as he appeared, he suppressed the way of heaven in the Tianyuan world. He stood there, looking at Li Yun with cold eyes, and said quietly, "Wrong. Li." Yun shook his head and responded with the same indifference, "It's you who wants to be my enemy." Li Yun still has a very clear understanding of his own strength. He has just stepped into the immortal emperor. From the perspective of strength, the gap between him and the lord of the underworld is too big. Even if, in just a moment, he will all the resources at hand have turned into strength, and he is only in the middle stage of the immortal emperor. He is still a long way from the realm of the underworld lord. If he is given time, maybe he can surpass the underworld lord in the future. But the problem is, the other party didn't give him this time at all. If he hadn't known that the other party was coming for him, Li Yun might still not have taken action. Taking action without complete assurance is not his style. Your strength is weaker than I imagined, not even as good as the original God Emperor. If you are my enemy, you are destined to die. The shadow spoke. The voice affected thousands of divine laws. Each divine law turned into a chain, clanking, trapping the universe in all directions and sealing every inch of space. If you have the ability, you can give it a try. Li Yun said. Shui Ying opened his eyes, and millions of symbols flashed in his eyes. It was extremely mysterious. He took a deep look at the other person, which was a little weird. He couldn't remember how long it had been. The last time someone dared to speak to him like this, it was probably a god emperor, but the result was the fall of the god emperor, and now someone is talking to him like this. Today it seems that it is inevitable that another immortal emperor will fall in his hands. Kill. Li Yun took the lead. No matter what, this battle between the two is inevitable. This time, Li Yun wanted to prove how strong his immortal emperor was, and secondly, because he came through time travel. He has never fought against anyone, which can add some combat experience. As for defeating the Lord of the Underworld, he has never thought about this. Because there is no way to win. As long as he loses, Li Yun immediately escaped into the Tianji Tower. With the strength of the Lord of the Underworld, there was nothing he could do about the Tianji Tower for the time being. The only drawback was that the other party might seal the Tianyuan world so that outsiders could not enter. In this way, he gained the idea of Tianji points is probably going to come to nothing. He is counting on a Tianyuan world to let him keep collecting wool. It is estimated that he will not be able to break through for hundreds of millions of years. It is not because of anything else, mainly because of the level of Tianyuan world. It's still too weak. Of course. This is the last resort. The best way is that he can take the Tianji Tower and leave. If he can't be defeated, he can still hide. In the future, he will take the Tianji Tower and appear randomly in all the worlds. Anywhere. Be a mysterious businessman. He can also get Tianji points, but in this case, the Tianyuan world is probably gone. Without his protection, the Tianyuan world is like an ant in the eyes of the underworld master. Can make it disappear. System, you should understand my current situation. If you don't take action this time, I'm afraid we will either be sealed or wander around the world. The system did not respond. Li Yun, on the other hand, began to concentrate on dealing with the Lord of the Underworld. The seals between the two people are constantly emerging, which can instantly seal the heavens and suppress all races of life. If they go on a killing spree, not to mention the Tianyuan world, even the immortal world can be destroyed in an instant. This kind of power has surpassed the constraints of heaven. Reached an incredible point. The war between the immortal emperors broke out again after an era. No one has seen it in all eternity, at least in the immortal realm or God realm. I have never seen some old monsters. They only knew that the Lord of the Underworld had fought against the God Emperor, but they didn't even know the final result. Even the immortal king can only imagine it for a moment. Boom! Time became a river, and a deafening roar came out. The long river that had flowed for endless years was abruptly cut off, and the entire long river of time was turbulent. The years were ruthlessly crushed, and the rules of this place were completely chaotic. Li Yun and the Lord of the Underworld were infighting. The two people have hundreds of millions of clones, appearing in different years. In the past, future and present, there are two people fighting each and every moment. They went against the long river of time, fought until the past, and rushed from the past to the past. The future. During this process, Li Yun witnessed the scene of the ancient underworld war. He even witnessed the scene of the fall of the God Emperor, but he could not change anything at all. At their level, what had already happened had already become a fact. It is difficult to change anything without surpassing the level of the past. Li Yun's eyes were deep. He solidified the void in front of him, and there was an unprecedented scene in his pupils. Without saying a word, he raised his fist to kill, and killed the Lord of the Underworld. Boom! At this time, time in the long river of time has completely blurred. The Lord of the Underworld retreated continuously. Although he was much stronger than Li Yun, the magical power Li Yun used was very rare. From the fight to the present, Li Yun's methods, not even repeated. Each one is a great magical power, involving the immortal emperor, and even the profound meanings above the immortal emperor. It is very mysterious. What kind of boxing are you doing? 6 Paths of Samsara Fist. Oh! The Lord of the Underworld was moved in his heart and said in a deep voice, have you also understood the way of reincarnation? Ah! Li Yun chuckled, without explaining anything. He moved his body, made seals in the air with his hands, and shot out a mysterious rune, downstream in the distant time. A blue-clothed Taoist, holding floating dust in his hand, went upstream. Fellow Taoist, let me help you. Hearing this sentence, the Lord of the Underworld was extremely surprised. He had already understood the past and the future. Logically speaking, the future years have been controlled by him. It is impossible for someone above the immortal emperor to appear again. But the problem is, this Blue Manyi Taoist is indeed in the realm of the immortal emperor, or has just stepped into the immortal emperor. He is similar in strength to Li Yun, and even his aura is very similar. This is too weird. He can be sure that this is not a method of clone, but a genuine statue. The powerful immortal emperor. Just when the Lord of the Underworld was stunned, the long river of time exploded, and thousands of sword lights burst out. After the endless sword lights, a man with black clothes and black hair, holding a black sword, had a stern face. Strode over. How can I be missing in this battle? How is this going? One Qi transforms the 3 Qing dynasties. These 5 words emerged, solving the doubts of the Lord of the Underworld. But the problem was that he had never heard of this magical power, let alone seen it. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 693. A very mysterious method. The Lord of the Underworld commented. His eyes were cold to the extreme, and then he shot out a blazing beam of light. Li Yun's talent made him feel amazed and even more afraid. From the fight to the present, the methods used by the other party are almost never repeated. There are some magical powers that he can see through at a glance, but some of them are extremely incredible. Even he can't figure out the clues. For example, the current 1 Qi transforming 3 pure things. Although it is a method of clones, it is genuine. Every living being in existence is similar in strength to Li Yun. This is equivalent to summoning two people of the same level at once. No. Not two. Behind the side of the underworld lord, the void collapsed again, and a white-bearded and white-haired figure appeared. The old man, riding on a blue dragon, came along the long river of time. He seemed to be an ancient man, with the laws of time flowing through his body. His eyes were deep, and his thin face had countless traces of vicissitudes. He seemed to have witnessed the events of countless eras. Time changes. One Qi transforms the three Qing dynasties. Can he actually create three people of the same level? The Lord of the Underworld was shocked. This means that Li Yun is weak and cannot exert the full power of this magical power. What if the opponent is only slightly weaker than himself, or at the same level? Or maybe it is slightly stronger? Needless to say, the outcome of victory or defeat. If the opponent uses this magical power, he will definitely lose. There is no second possibility. Because no one can fight against four peers at the same time. After all, those who have made it this far are the most amazing beings in the ages. It is difficult to predict the outcome of one-on-one, let alone one-on-two. Or one-to-many. You have now completely aroused my murderous intention. The Lord of the Underworld felt a little lucky at this moment. Fortunately, the Lord of Senluo Ghost territory woke him up. If he had been sleeping for hundreds of millions of years, he would have allowed the master of Tianji Tower in front of him to continue to grow. Maybe the day he wakes up will be the day he falls. Now, killing the opponent before they catch up with you may be able to eliminate a catastrophe in the future. Kill. The Lord of the Underworld directly used the forbidden secret technique. He was worried that the other party had any special means that he had not yet used. He was worried that he would not be able to kill this young man who had become the immortal emperor. Clang. 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 Around the Lord of the Underworld, the law of reincarnation emerged. It was the purest power of law, turned into a divine chain, shattering the void in all directions, and cutting across the long river of time. It was boundless and covered the entire river. Boom. An incarnation, its whole body was struck by lightning, flew out, and crashed into the depths of the long river of time. It was unknown which era it fell into. But soon, the incarnation came back again. The five incompetent people the existences in the world are fighting here. Throughout the long river of time, the waves of time are splashing, and time is completely stopped. In some years, there is even a chaotic scene of time and space. Modern people can compete with ancient people. People talk to each other, and some people can even see themselves in the future, and I don't know how many people have turned back time because of this war. These creatures who have been reborn or traveled through time due to the chaos of time may never know. The reason why this is possible is because someone fought outside the territory and destroyed the entire river of time. Buzz. The Lord of the Underworld has unparalleled combat power. With 1 against 4, although he is slightly behind, he can still persevere. His eyes fall on the long river of time, running through ancient and modern times. Throughout the long river of history, he is looking for traces of Li Yun. But he was disappointed. He originally planned to take action in the past to obliterate the previous Li Yun, but what he didn't expect was that Li Yun seemed not to belong to this world. In the previous era, there was no trace of Li Yun at all. Don't say that. An era. Not even in the past 1,000 years. How can it be? The Lord of the Underworld was secretly frightened. This master of Tianji is a genuine immortal emperor. This kind of existence cannot be cultivated overnight. He must have experienced a long period of growth. But the problem is, how could we not find any trace of each other in the long river of time? Is it possible? Did he erase it himself? Thinking that the other party had already used so many mysterious methods, the Lord of the Underworld felt a little relieved. Maybe the other party had other methods. Can you erase the traces of your own existence? This possibility, although very small, is not impossible. Don't bother. Li Yun saw through the other party's thoughts and sneered. Although you are invisible in the past, you are invisible in this world. Come to death. A loud shout. The roar cut off the long river of time, and thousands of rules were intertwined. His words became Wang Yang, and he surrendered at the opponent's feet. He was extremely brave and unstoppable. Facing the attack of 4 people, he stabilized his position and could even draw time counterattacks. This kind of combat power is shocking. Although your magical power is mysterious, how long can you sustain it? This period of time has passed. The master of the underworld still hasn't seen clearly the mystery of how to transform 3 pure things in one breath, but he almost knows the shortcomings, that is, it consumes a lot of energy. It won't be long before Li Yun himself will be the first to be unable to support it. Sure enough. Soon after, the attacks of the 3 incarnations stagnated and were not as fierce as before. Seeing this, the Lord of the Underworld's eyes lit up. He counterattacked and punched out. The punch came out like a dragon. It broke through the limitations of space and was wrapped with various rules. Power, invincible. Poof. One of Li Yun's incarnations was completely blown apart. His body was torn into pieces, and then exploded. Countless blood rains exploded in all directions, and the entire time was penetrated. Boom. The blazing light filled the air. It was dazzling. Although it was just an incarnation, he was also an immortal emperor. His body washbroken, that kind of residual power directly shattered an era. The storm left behind was of a world-destroying level, directly exploding the heavens. If you have any other means, please use them together. The Lord of the Underworld said indifferently. In his eyes, thousands of rules were intertwined, which contained the essence of the entire world. After Li Yun's fight, he benefited a lot from the battle. He even had some knowledge about the next road. With a glimmer of understanding. After all, people who can reach this point need not say much about their understanding and wisdom. Although you are slightly weaker in strength, your creativity is much better than mine. Thanks to you, I can see the future. Don't worry, I will arrange a good birth for you in the next life. At that time, your memory was wiped away, and you might be willing to serve the underworld. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 694. Li Yun was speechless. After a fight, he also benefited a lot. But the other party gained more. This is a bit unbalanced. When the other party has completely entered the next level, what else can I do? Even if there is a system, I'm afraid it's not enough. Hit the road. The Lord of the Underworld didn't want to get entangled anymore and wanted a quick victory. He held it with one hand, and the boundless universe exploded, and the long river of time stopped flowing. Time stopped at this moment. The 2 people collided fiercely, fighting for their lives. Bang! A drop of blood fell, the long river of time was cut off, time went back, the past historical scenes became immortals beside the 2 of them, and everything began to grow in reverse. No matter how the surroundings changed, the 2 figures were always entangled and fighting. And the battle is becoming more and more intense and unparalleled. Even if the quasi-immortal emperor is here, I am afraid that he will not be able to intervene in it. If he intervenes rashly, a fallout will be enough to make them irreversible. Bang! Another loud noise came, and another incarnation of Li Yun was completely destroyed. 2 consecutive incarnations were destroyed. The situation between the 2 was completely reversed. The master of the underworld had unparalleled combat power and completely had the upper hand. At this moment, Li Yun could only parry but had no power to fight back. Although the magical powers he displays are very mysterious, they also need support from strength. Without strength, no matter how mysterious the methods are, they will not be able to exert their maximum power. Boom! Li Yun and the Lord of the Underworld collided together, and a shocking wave came out. It was the wave formed by their true energy, which spread in all directions and stirred up the boundless world. Click! The long river of time cracked, and time was broken. Between the two of them, around them, the world kept changing, and they reached an unknown area. There was nothingness here, no concepts of time and space. Even the chaos and mist did not exist. It seemed like a place of nothingness, with only two people there. Stop fighting. The ripples that appear between your palms can destroy everything and cause unimaginable horrific consequences. Bang! Another avatar was shattered. Li Yun frowned. The last avatar was gone. If he fought against the Lord of the Underworld alone, he would be completely suppressed. If he didn't think about a way to escape, he might be in danger. Opposite the Lord of the Underworld. As if he had seen through Li Yun's thoughts, he sneered and waved from the distance. A huge millstone shattered the long river of time. It flew over from a distant era and hung above the battlefield between the two of them, freezing the surrounding space. The laws of reincarnation fell one after another. They were the most essential rules. They were so strong that even the immortal emperor would have a hard time escaping. All of Li Yun's escape routes were blocked. The 6 reincarnations rotated slowly. There were cries of ghosts and howls from the gods. In the sound, countless souls were struggling and howling, and Li Yun even saw a few familiar figures inside. They had all been to Tianji Tower. But now, they have all fallen, and even the souls were trapped in the 6 paths of reincarnation. It can be seen from this that the Lord of the Underworld is determined to establish the 6 paths of reincarnation. When he merges with all the heavens and worlds, at that time, all living beings in the entire world will be subject to him. Control. The strength of this control can be said to be unbreakable, because a person's future life will be predetermined by him in advance. From then on, there will no longer be any accidents, and he can only walk according to the established trajectory. Such a world can be said to be unified. But if you think about it carefully, there is great terror hidden in it. It's time for you to keep company with them. The Lord of the Underworld looked like he was lording over the world. He looked down at Li Yun from a high position. He was cold and ruthless. He was talking eloquently and was already sure of victory. When I refine your way, I will personally accept you as my disciple in the next life. In his opinion, this is a great honor. Most people don't get this treatment at all. But for Li Yun, it has a strong sense of ridicule. Being accepted as a disciple by his enemy is probably the same as recognizing a thief as his father. Got it? Go to hell. The Lord of the Underworld waved his arms, and the 6 reincarnations rumbled down. With thousands of divine lights, they suppressed Li Yun. This scene was very terrifying. It shocked the past and present and the future, and had a far-reaching impact. There was a boom. Chaos separated, and the world of life was destroyed. All kinds of rules are vast for hundreds of millions of miles, they can't be far away, everything will be killed. All living beings will be wiped out. Tianji Tower. At this moment, Li Yun no longer cares about hiding. The system has no response and can only rely on the Tianji Tower. This is a rare treasure that can block everyone's prying eyes. Not even the Lord of Heaven or the Lord of the Underworld can see it. Where it? Its grade should be above the 6 paths of reincarnation. It is perfect to use it to resist the 6 paths of reincarnation. Buzz. In the desert city, the Tianji Tower shook with a bang. Thousands of divine lights burst out from it, and figures were thrown out. These were the people who had entered the Tianji Tower before, and now they were thrown out. Countless people had not yet reacted. Time. Boom. With a loud noise, the Tianji Tower rose from the ground, turned into a divine light, and rushed out of the territory. After breaking through the sky, it directly entered the long river of time. Going against the long river of time, it rushed to Li Yun's side. Although the Tianji Tower is an attic, it is also extremely terrifying. This is a special magic weapon that directly hit the six paths of reincarnation and knocked it out. Billions of rays of divine light tore apart the heavens for eternity in an instant. This place returned to the starting point, the world collapsed, and everything collapsed. What's this? The Lord of the Underworld was extremely shocked. With his strength, he could not see through the attic in front of him. This was too weird. This kind of thing would never happen in the past. But today, it did indeed happen. No need to talk nonsense, I can escape the suppression of your six paths of reincarnation. Now I am curious, can you escape the suppression of Tianji Tower? Li Yun stepped forward and stood in the Tianji Tower. It was almost integrated with the attic. The defense was unparalleled. At this moment, he no longer had any worries. He took action with all his strength, sealed the sky, and the entire Tianji Tower turned into a mountains, rumbling down. Arrogant. The Lord of the Underworld's eyes were deep, looking at the Tianji Tower above, with a trace of doubt rising in his heart for no reason. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 695. The Tianji building is simple and heavy, with an atmosphere of vicissitudes of life permeating it. If it were in the past, it would look like just a small attic from the outside. But now, the Tianji Tower was completely activated. Above, the aura that suppressed the heavens and filled the past, present, and future was stirring. It seems that it has experienced the baptism of eternity, and now it is once again showing its terrifying power. The energy in this attic is too terrifying. Compared with before, there has been a qualitative change, and it has become a weapon that can shock all worlds. It rumbles and the oppressive laws of all worlds collapse. As the secret tower falls, a suffocating sense of oppression followed. Anyone facing this attic will feel a great threat, even the Lord of the Underworld. His heart is beginning to beat at this moment. He was convinced that with Li Yun's strength, he would never be able to refine such a weapon. But the problem is, Li Yun happened to control this attic. Then comes the problem. Where did this loft come from? Since it was not made by Li Yun, does it mean that there is another owner behind this attic? If so, how terrifying must the owner of this attic be? Is it possible? Thinking of this, the Lord of the Underworld's pupils shrank, and he thought of a terrible possibility. Could it be? Is there an expert behind this Tianji building owner? No. The Lord of the Underworld quickly made up his mind. With cold eyes, he looked at the attic. To be precise, he looked at Li Yun, who was standing in the attic. This person must be killed today. The threat of one Li Yun is already great. If there is an expert behind him, he may be attacked from both sides in the future. In order to avoid this situation, the best way is to eliminate Li Yun first. Then think about it, find a way to find the person behind Li Yun. As for giving up today and turning around and leaving, this is not the behavior of the Lord of the Underworld at all. The two sides are already enemies, and there is no reason to let the tiger return to the mountain. Boom. The Lord of the Underworld sacrificed the six paths of reincarnation, and the huge millstone pressed across the heavens. With a slight shock, the chaos was shattered, and the order of the heavens was completely disintegrated. Two ancient and brilliant weapons collided together, and a world-destroying force burst out. Aftermath. Click. This land of nothingness has been completely destroyed. Kill. A loud roar. At this moment, the Lord of the Underworld used the forbidden power without any reservation. It almost surpassed the strength of the immortal Emperor. He used it in full. Just a wisp of breath was enough to completely collapse the world. With a single movement of his hand, he can create heaven and earth, like a god and demon, madly attacking the Tianji Tower. The whole attic was shaken. You know, this is the first time that this kind of thing has happened. Although it cannot completely shake the Tianji Tower, let alone the opposite. The person who caused any impact, but the Tianji Tower was slightly shaken, was enough to shock people's hearts. As everyone knows, the outside master of the underworld was even more shocked in his heart. He had already used all his strength to take action. He didn't fly out of the Tianji Tower. That's all, it didn't even damage the weapon at all, not even a single tile on it could be broken. This is simply unbelievable. You know, he is about to surpass the immortal emperor. What kind of material is this attic made of? Under the illumination of various gorgeous rules, the entire Tianji Tower was cast with a mysterious brilliance. Every tile above it bloomed with its own luster. It seemed to be condensed from a small world. It was very special. Beautiful. I don't believe it. I have been practicing for countless epochs, but I can't afford a small attic. Reincarnation begins again, recovery returns to unity. Break it for me. There was an angry shout. The Lord of the Underworld pulled all the laws together, turned into a torrent, and rushed forward. The bright divine light illuminated this era. Then it shattered the past and cut through the future. Like a bolt of lightning, lighting up the different historical skies. Sonorous. The Tianji Tower was shaken. Inside. The long-lost system sound resounded in Li Yun's mind. Report to the master that the Tianji building is under attack by a powerful enemy. Should the master unlock the memory and cultivation of the past life to suppress the powerful external enemy? Owner. Li Yun was keenly aware of the change in the system's name. In the past, the system always called him host, but now it is called master. Although it is only a one-word difference, the difference is huge. There is a big difference. Host, as the name suggests, means that the system is temporarily staying with you. Master, on the other hand, means that you are already above the system. Are you the system or the weapon spirit of this Tianji building? At this time, Li Yun seemed to have thought of something and asked. Just as the master said and guessed, I am the weapon spirit of this Tianji Tower. It is just the memory of the master's previous life and is still sealed, so he does not remember me for the time being. Sure enough. Li Yun's eyes lit up. He had long guessed that the system was not in his body, but in the Tianji Tower. It was just that he had never left the Tianji Tower before to verify it. Just before, after fighting with the Lord of the Underworld, the two entered the river of time. He called the system in his heart, but there was no response. He had some guesses in his mind. Now the system, or the answer of the weapon spirit, confirmed his guess. If that's the case, then let's unlock the strength from the previous life. Li Yun was very curious about how powerful he was in his previous life. Yes, Master. The weapon spirit of Tianji Tower responded, and then asked again, Master, your memory. The memory does not need to be unblocked. Since it involves the past life, Li Yun is not sure how long he lived in the previous life. If he lived for countless epochs, his memory is too huge. Once merged, it is not certain whether he will be himself or not. It is very likely that in the end, the situation is that the self in the previous life is resurrected, but the consciousness of the self in this life is annihilated. Okay. The voice of the weapon spirit fell. Suddenly, in the Tianji Tower, a majestic true energy poured down. Li Yun's strength increased at a speed visible to the naked eye. He had already become an immortal emperor. Now it is even more, it has reached an incredible point quickly. It is too terrifying. Even the TNG tower cannot isolate all the breath. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 696. Inside the TNG building. Li Yun stands majestically, with long black hair hanging loosely, like a god, eternal and immortal. Time can hardly leave any trace on his body, and his whole body exudes the glory of immortality. The moment of grace overwhelmed the heavens. This moment, his strength has reached an incredible level. Above the immortal emperor? Li Yun weighed it in his mind, and he felt that it was more than that, because when he looked at the Lord of the Underworld outside, he had previously felt that he was invincible. Now as small as an ant. Is this my original strength? Li Yun murmured softly. He took one step forward and came to the outside of the TNG tower. He stood in the void. A wisp of breath escaped, causing the world to rumble and tremble. Although he had not yet taken action, the whole world has begun to be unbearable. This is just the result of the natural escape of breath. If he strikes casually, he may be able to completely penetrate the entire chaos. What happened? The Lord of the Underworld was extremely shocked. He looked at Li Yun, who appeared in front of him again, and suddenly felt a strange feeling. It wasn't that his appearance had changed, but that his breath had changed. It was as if he was a different person. The other person just stood there. He couldn't help but tremble and wanted to run away. He couldn't figure out why someone, in such a short period of time, could advance in strength so horribly, and who was not as good as himself from the beginning. In the blink of an eye, already completely superior to himself. How on earth do you do that? The Lord of the Underworld asked in a deep voice. However, Li Yun was not interested in answering. He raised his hand and pointed out, and divine light burst out, instantly piercing the body of the Lord of the Underworld and bringing out a large piece of the divine chain of rules. His body, it has been completely regulated and has no entity at all. Li Yun's blow directly cut off most of his rules and caused him to suffer unimaginable damage. Why? The eyes of the Lord of the Underworld were full of disbelief. The other party is too scary. It has gone beyond his knowledge. It is definitely not just the realm he knows. Perhaps the other party has already transcended all the worlds and reached an unprecedented level. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. The Lord of the Underworld roared. He had been preparing for several epochs and was about to succeed. He couldn't accept that the person who suddenly appeared suddenly overcame him. This made him feel more uncomfortable than killing him. He shot at Li Yun again. But the result was still the same as before. Li Yun didn't have any moves and punched out directly. Suddenly the sky and the earth shattered, and the body of the Lord of the Underworld was shattered. There was only a residual soul, which was pinched by Li Yun. Between your fingers. With just a slight exertion, the opponent can be completely wiped out. Who is it and how did it happen, this step? Pinched in Li Yun's hand, the Lord of the Underworld struggled to ask. Now, his heart is full of doubts. Even if he dies, he doesn't want to die in a daze. At least he wants to understand the ins and outs of the matter. Have you forgotten the 6 paths of reincarnation? Li Yun wrote lightly. Reincarnation. The eyes of the Lord of the Underworld widened. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. Then he smiled with relief and said softly, that's it. The law of reincarnation is vast and boundless, and you can even peek into the past and present lives. Li Yun just said something. Although he didn't say it clearly, the Lord of the Underworld had already guessed it. This life, for me, enough. The Lord of the Underworld spoke lonely. He turned his head and glanced in the direction of all the worlds. A different look flashed in his eyes. There was hope and a trace of reluctance, but more of it was helplessness. He wanted to escape but couldn't escape at all. There is no way to escape, everything has become a foregone conclusion now. hit the road. Li Yun opened his mouth, turned his palm, and thousands of divine lights bloomed, forcibly killing the master of the underworld. From then on, there was no more underworld in the world. After the master of the underworld disappeared, the six paths of reincarnation let out a mournful cry, and the terrifying aura filled the air. Not to attack Li Yun, but to destroy himself. Divine objects have spirits. The same is true for the six reincarnations. But before he could be destroyed, he was captured by Li Yun in his palm, and he waved his hand to erase the master of the underworld. Mark, and then completely suppressed it. Although he doesn't like this weapon now, it has some merits. For example, the fact that it can send souls to rebirth makes Li Yun a little bit interested. If there is any in the future, in terms of time, Li Yun doesn't mind opening up a world, modeled on the mythical world. Build a heaven and an underworld. It's time for all the heavens and worlds to merge into one. After doing all this, Li Yun turned around and looked at the heavens and worlds. He waved his hand and shouted, "Go!" The Tianji tower next to him turned into a divine light and fell towards the Tianyuan world again. With the Tianyuan world as the center, a huge pulling force spread out. The boundless chaos was shaken, the mist of chaos surged, and the strong wind blew across the sky. One world after another shook with a bang, and then quickly shuttled through the chaos. Soon, one world after another, like a piece of incomplete territory, was spliced together with the Tianyuan world and other worlds. Looking at the gradually merging worlds, Li Yun seemed to have remembered something. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he flexed his fingers. With a flick, a divine thought shot out of the air and landed in the Tianji tower. The divine light fell to the ground and turned into a figure in a green gown. It was no one else. It was Li Yun himself. This was a divine thought that took shape. Cheng was left here by Li Yun to continue to perform his duties. At the same time, almost all living beings in the entire Tianyuan world, even the Zixuan world, the earthly immortal world, the Sumeru world, etc., are all in panic. What happened? Some people said with fear. Just now, the Tianyuan world suddenly shook. This scene is not unfamiliar to them, and they have experienced it several times. Because this scene will happen every time the world merges. But now it happens again. Appeared. People are further reminded of the comments left by the predecessor of the Tianji building. It is difficult for people not to think of a bad direction. After all, the Tianji building soars into the sky, the Tianji building owner disappears, and the world begins again. Fusion, could it be that the Lord of the Underworld was secretly taking action? But before anyone could calm down, in the deserted city, where the Tianji tower was originally located, a divine light leaked to the ground, and an antique attic rose from the ground. A graceful figure in green clothes stood with his hands behind his back. He had black hair hanging down naturally, his face was like jade, and with a faint smile on his lips, he glanced at everyone, then turned around and entered the depths of the Tianji tower. Yes, Senior Tianji poster. Everyone couldn't believe it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 697. The senior owner of Tianji is back. Deafening cheers were heard throughout the entire city. The sound shook the sky. Countless people were excited. They understood that just now, the senior Tianji building master stood up and showed up, not for anything else, but mainly to reassure them. Now. Senior Master Tianji is back, but the Lord of the Underworld is nowhere to be seen. The result is already clear. The Lord of the Underworld has fallen, and there will be no threat from the Underworld from now on. At this moment, the news of the death of the Lord of the Underworld turned into a hurricane, at a terrifying speed. spread to the Zixuan realm, then the earthly immortal realm, then the Sumeru realm, and all the heavens and realms. In front of Tianji Tower, a pop sound came, and Lu Minghe fell to his knees. He was speechless and choked. He looked up at the sky and murmured, "Ancestor, you are wrong. We all guessed wrong. The underworld has arrived, and all realms have been unified. It is not that it is unified in the hands of the Lord of the underworld, but it is unified in the hands of the Senior Tianji Luzu. We guessed wrong what the Senior Tianji Luzu meant. With a single thought, the entire world has fallen into a state of eternal doom. Almost 90% of the Immortal King level figures have fallen. Now those who are standing on the Immortal King list are all low-ranking figures in the past. Although some people have been spread out. Ridiculous, but it is true. Fellow, don't be sad. If I remember correctly, there is still one person in the Lu family. Next to me, someone comforted me. Who else could it be? All the immortal kings of the Lu clan died in the battle, and the Lu clan has completely declined from today on. Lu Minghe said bitterly. Lu Qinghong. The man uttered 3 words softly. These 3 words, like a thunderbolt, struck into Lu Minghe's heart. His body trembled, he turned around and looked at the Tianji Tower behind him, and then rushed into the Tianji Tower desperately. The years are long. Millions of years are fleeting. After millions of years of cultivation, all the heavens and worlds have been completely integrated into one, and the world is so vast that even a person in the immortal realm may not be able to visit it in his lifetime. In these millions of years, geniuses have emerged one after another in all realms. The number of immortal king figures has increased several times. There is a thriving scene everywhere. In the midst of this, especially the Juyu demon sect is the most dazzling. To be precise, it is the most dazzling within the original Tianyuan realm. It has been since Mengqingzi, the ancestor of the Juyu demon sect, stepped into the immortal queen 30,000 years ago. The current leader of the 9 nether demon sect, Yang Qiu, has also entered the realm of immortality. Although he is not an immortal king, he is at least an immortal person. It can be said that becoming an immortal king in the future is just around the corner. We congratulate the leader on entering the realm of immortality. We congratulate the leader on entering the realm of immortality. We congratulate the leader on entering the realm of immortality. In the headmaster's hall, dozens of elders from the 9 nether demon sect all bowed and saluted. The attitude was very respectful. The Juyu demon sect was only established for a few million years, and there were countless generations of leaders. Only Yang Qiu stayed in the position of leader for a full million years. And it seems that he will continue to stay. There is nothing we can do about this. Who made this person the direct disciple of Mengqingzi? With Mengqingzi here, Yang Qiu's position as head coach is as secure as Mount Tai, and almost no one can take it away from him. Elders, there is no need to be polite. Yang Qiu sat upright, with uncontrollable joy on his face. He said implicitly, this is all thanks to the senior master of Tianji. Without senior Tianji building master, how could I be where I am today? Looking back on those days, I was just an elder. Speaking of these things, Yang Qiu's face was a little bit sad. In the blink of an eye, millions of years have passed. If the Tianyuan world had not changed, he would have become a pile of loess. Not to mention him, even Mengqingzi is estimated to be gone by this time. Whether the Juyu demon sect is still there or not is a matter of 2 opinions. It can be said that without Tianji Tower, there would be no Juyu demon sect today. Reporting to the headmaster, the elders from the 10,000 Transformations Holy Land, Ziwei Holy Land and other forces have arrived. They heard that the headmaster had broken through the realm of immortality and made a special trip to congratulate the headmaster today. At this time, a disciple came in and said respectfully, "Oh, Yang." Qiu raised his eyebrows. He looked at the elders next to him and said, "Since they have arrived, Please trouble the elders to entertain them first. I am going to the back mountain, and the only thing I can do about the breakthrough is the ancestor. After that, Yang Qiu's figure disappeared without waiting for the elders to react. After arriving at the back mountain, Yang Qiu walked to the place where Meng Qingzi was retreating, and he spoke respectfully. Junior Yang Qiu, please see the ancestor. The first sound landed. There was no response. Junior Yang Qiu, please see me. He spoke for the second time, but before he finished speaking, the sky suddenly cracked, and a gap suddenly opened in the originally intact void, and a long river of time emerged in it. And above the long river of time, stands an antique attic. That attic? For Yang Qiu, it was too familiar. If it wasn't Tianji Tower, what else could it be? I saw. In the Tianji Tower, a big hand grabbed out and passed through the limitations of time and space before anyone could react. Suddenly he entered the place where Meng Qingzi was retreating. When the palm was retracted, a figure was suddenly clutched in the palm. That person was none other than Meng Qingzi, the ancestor of the Nine Nether Demon sect. Seeing this scene happening, Yang Qiu was confused and murmured, "What's going on? Senior Tianji building master, why did you suddenly take away the ancestor?"